There's something that I want to make sure older liberals understand about Trump's coming victory, and something that you wouldn't know unless you were on the internet, when of course you were living a normal life and making your money for retirement and making money to put your kids through college and all that kind of stuff. Well, while you were living your life on the internet, a major political event happened that you didn't know. And what this was when, on a certain notorious show on the internet, Richard Spencer was on there, and one of the things is this is during the Biden versus Trump thing, and what happened was Spencer flipped for Joe Biden, and he flipped for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris openly, and saying that was the future for white dominance of society. And why? One would say why. So he started, thinking more along the lines, rather, Spencer stopped advocating a ideology of something like National Socialism and advocated something more solidly fascist. So in so doing, he was advocating for a multiracial society that would take on the norms of greater Eurosphere. And he fundamentally, no joke at all, he actually cited the entire European Union, the direction the European Union was starting to go. So he praised Harris for her coercive use of law, of the penal system, and this totally shocked the audience. The audience was totally legitimately, they could not believe what they were hearing, and they asked him, they were like, "Come on, you're trolling us." And Richard Spencer went on to address why he preferred Joe Biden, because he said he would be openly more coercive, and Trump has failed to use the government coercively enough for Richard Spencer's liking. Just so people understand what happened online among 30-year-old men, mostly, what they were hearing, what this world that people are saying is full of the online Nazis and stuff like that they would have never, and I bet nobody, I'm betting there's people that they are pretty astute and they think that they know what's happening with all these kind of characters, and I bet they never heard about this and heard about this episode. And somebody's going to be like, okay, then what show was it? It was Ethan Ralph's Kill Stream. That's when he said it on there. And I hadn't even watched for maybe weeks, maybe months at that time. And I just turn it on, and that's literally what I'm like, he's on, and he's a Biden pusher now, and he's Richard fucking Spencer. I'm like, holy shit, you are kidding me. But his logic, of course, was very Spencerian, and it was, well, I mean, if you want the government to just do whatever it wants to people, all you got to do is have a government like that and then get in control of it. And of course, his mentality about this was completely rational. He's like, how do you expect this tiny group of people to run the government when we're the vast majority? And it was just, I was like, and he's like, all we have to do is get our people in the right places. That's all it was so rational, so sort of this rational evil that I was just I was really, I'm still impressed, but it also was, he had to admit Trump didn't come through for the white nationalists. He would not crush his enemies. he violated the laws of power. In that regard, he violated the laws of power. But what he did do that was very interesting in following the laws of power is that he made everybody see all the many enemies that held him in that lack of esteem. It wasn't that he disliked, it was that there were people who disliked him. And so he ends up making everybody completely aware of who all these people are who dislike him. And it was brilliant. It was a brilliant play. But it was a long play. He had to be determined to get back in office, which he most likely will. Most likely, from the looks of it, everything I'm seeing of the way that the Republicans are starting to behave, there's a lot of them now that are starting to show that they're starting to act like that they're playing for keeps. There's now people are talking like they're playing for keeps. Now they're doing actions they're doing the things that a legislative body has to do to stack up the basically to set up the scaffold for their enemy and for the traitors. And that's what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that they're slowly setting up like everything these people have been up to. And there won't be some massive and then we purge the government. No, that's going to come over years. And the beauty of that is that the more the liberals fight it, the more people are going to be like, okay, so everybody in the government's really awesome then. We need all these offices. We need all these offices that are actually physically right now not being used. Right now, the United States government is not using 7/10 of its DC office space from what the report I saw was recently. There's so much work from home now in federal government that DC is becoming somewhat of a ghost town, hence why there's the crime kind of is even worse, because there's nobody there kind of even to witness it. Like it's these much more empty streets in a way, even though they're probably in no way, shape, or form really empty. But yeah. So I was just thinking about this. The 25 states getting together with Texas to deal with with immigration and all that, and that Mitch McConnell is like, yeah, this, the binding it to the Ukraine money is just not happening. No, and this whole omnibus, they're realizing, no, everyone sees through this. No, everybody's getting this now. That this is that we're this hustle. A lot of us, our hustle is running out. Our gaming of this is running out, and it's kind of fascinating to see how correct F.A. Hayek was. That, we really are at the stage where the worst have gotten on top. And that now they're at the stage that they're like, oh my God, like everybody knows what we're up to. Like the internet is everywhere and can't be erased. So, oh my God, they all know what we're up to. And, I remember I was thinking about that. That's actually one of the things that liberals have to face as Trump wins, is no matter, nothing, no negative, the Republicans are like this, these people are like, no, that's not going to help you. And I really want to caution, oh my gosh, that's so not going to help you. That a lot of you need to start getting this idea in your head of accepting the consequences of the fact that it's like, no, you all really did show us that like you hate us. That God becomes man, tells us a whole bunch of things that you shouldn't do. One of the key things is hatred, because it drives you mad. Rage and hatred, even in Chinese Taoism, rage is this aspect of the heart meridian being backed up, like, so it's like fire bursting out of the head and out of the eyes, and that, so it makes the eyes show whites. That's why you see those Buddhist, the demons in Buddhism, their eyes are in a field of, you could see the whites of their eyeballs. You could see sanbai, quote unquote 3 white, because that their eyes are bugging out in rage and in anger. And so that, because it's just one of these things of no, your wisdom, your the idea of the supernatural connection to a natural wisdom, a natural kindness, a natural goodness is broken by hatred. Then also you have a harder and harder time dealing with then natural reason. And this is one of these that when somebody says something and they're lying, when the idea is that no, there's you could tell people are lying. When you ask certain questions for clarity, the answer should be clear. That's natural reason. Everybody, there's this like kind of, you hear discussions of this among like kind of mystics, of the 60s through the 90s, but Christians already had this term, natural reason. And it goes all the way back in the Greek tradition, like I think 3,000 years. And it was, so it's, one of the things that the liberals don't get is that their young were not taught anything of that Greek tradition, that they then thought of, I should do that to make my mind work better. And so they mock it. I mean, they really mock sort of the foundations of human knowledge. Not understanding, like the Greek alphabet are geometric. There's geometric terms in the Greek alphabet. Like this was an incredibly complicated society, and we owe a lot, to the Greeks and the Romans, and it's like, so there's nothing you could gain from that. And it's like, no, because you see, they don't know now. They don't know the new thinking. They don't know the new way. They don't know the new dances. And so a lot of you older liberals, you need to kind of think that through. Like, wait a second, who does that sound like? Does that sound like you at a certain age? That's okay. Did at some point you pick up a book that about maybe Socrates or Plato or the Greek philosophers, or you started to listen to books on tape of the great works, things like that when you were on your way to the office? Your kid doesn't do that. Antifa doesn't listen to Chicago's 50th great books, the 500 University of Chicago, was it 100 to 500 top books list. They don't do that. No book on tape, no podcast, no. They listen to podcasts about how everybody is a Nazi, a bigot, and is after their Lucky Charms. Which then comes down to that. All these groups that are aggrieved and always saying that there's these people who are after them. Why would anyone be after them? If these are groups that inherently, if you have all these angry conservatives who think of themselves as ubermenches, why would they have a problem with other people? It's simple as. This is why, if you notice, there's kind of a certain behavior in the hip-hop culture of New York, the 5% Nation, or even the Nation of Islam does this, that where are they? Where is the Nation of Islam? You never see them around because they're only around their own. They don't give a shit about other people. They have their own culture unto themselves. They have their own thing unto themselves, their own insular culture unto themselves. 5% Nation people of New York. Most people don't even know this exists. They don't even know this exists, this ever did exist, that it still exists. These guys talk about their lesson books and keeping and meeting up with the gods and getting their lessons and all of that. That culture still exists and is real as hell. And if you don't know that it exists, you just don't. So I've started to actually sit back and I'm like, yeah, and so it's not like, a lot of this comes out of subculture, comes out of gangs, it comes out of the 1969, almost bizarrely universally, skinheads, a whole bunch of different gangs, the Crips, like that's one that I think would blow people away, is that the same year the subculture of the skinheads in Britain forms, the Crips form in LA, and a bunch of other kind of gang cultures form throughout the modernized world, all in around 65 through 69. Just so, because nobody wants to deal with, that was you baby boomers. This would mean that most of these, if they were 15 years old in 1969, that's 54. So that totally fits. That's, the middle of the baby boom, really. And so, the older liberals don't understand what the activists, where some of their culture even comes from. The quote unquote Antifa people, that's an insular culture unto itself that came out of the punk rock and specifically the skinhead culture of the 80s, and mostly out of Germany and Europe, and then had more to do with soccer hooliganism. And so even to this day, all those Antifa people say ACAB, that's a skinhead song. That's not an Antifa song. Those guys weren't into neo-Nazism. They thought that shit was bullshit. But that song is solid. They absolutely would not associate themselves with they wouldn't associate with either side, because they were Eastenders, and that was their song. And so it was so it really was that, because nobody's going to know how, there's going to be books written only by the right wing on how the fuck did you guys lose so hard with the leftists? Like, how did you liberals lose and just have dirt in your mouth, fall down and have dirt in your face, by the end of it? How did you fall down so hard you lost a tooth? Because this isn't like this. It's 2016, you can say what you want about 2020. It's like, no. That's its own thing that's going to come up. No, the mail-in stuff was garbage. Everyone who saw how the mail-ins were set up across the country, if you're from Oregon and you know how mail-in is supposed to work, they botched it. They botched it completely on purpose. They had no way of, they had a 20 to 40 year model of how to do it correctly, and they botched it because they botched it on purpose. And so it's just, so you don't, there's things you don't know. And your activists and your journalists that are acting together, and they've ruined it for you. They've totally ruined it for you. And I feel really bad for people that they actually they really care. It really means something for them. But it's like, yeah, these people kind of robbed you, and you should at some point kind of, like get to know like some of the sources that, you don't really get it. The right wingers, it's like it's a reading club, and it's like competitive reading of really hardcore stuff. It's really smart. Later.